Yes, guys, welcome to another episode, another meeting of the council. The CONCACAF Council is here to discuss the window that just happened. And boy, do we have a lot to talk about. As Owen put it so aptly before we started, JD is dressed like he just came from shooting a rap video with 50 Cent, and he looks amazing. Josh is getting his cigar and dance moves ready to celebrate the window that was. And Owen, I haven't actually talked to you yet. How are you feeling after what was a pretty rough window for Mexico?
I think it's tough to be optimistic, certainly in the medium and long term. But I think it's worth keeping in mind, and we'll talk about this more in depth, certainly, that if you're looking from the beginning of the qualifiers, you're looking at the schedule. Okay, what are the two most difficult games that Mexico are going to have? It's the two games they just played. So yeah. The losses weren't necessarily the surprise. I think it's the way the team played, and as a continuation of kind of the last year or so, the overall function collectively being on a downward curve, certainly from the beginning of the Martino regime, which was the high point, I think is the real worry.
Yeah, that was an interesting window. So, I mean, you've already gotten us started, Owen, but I was thinking maybe each of us just go around the table, say, the results that our team had, just in case anybody doesn't know, and give a grading between A+ and F- for our team. You want to go ahead and start, Owen?
Sure. Yeah. So Mexico lost 2-0 in the United States, a result that unfortunately the team is all too familiar with, and fans as well. This time in Cincinnati, and then they lost 2-1 in Canada. Which I believe, so they've played something like 21 before that, 21 World Cup qualifying matches against Canada. They'd only lost once, which was in 1976. So that was the second loss. Okay. First time Canada's beaten them since the 2000 Gold Cup. Yeah. This is obviously a much better Canada than we've seen in a long time. Yeah. I'm going to give, for the grade, I'm going to give a D-. So I think to enter into F territory, I think you'd have to, the losses would have had to have been heavier. Yeah. Also, like I said before, keeping in mind that those are the two toughest matches that Mexico are going to have in this World Cup qualifying cycle. You haven't fallen out of the top three. You're still holding on to an automatic qualifying spot. And also the collective function was bad, but while getting good results in previous FIFA windows, it wasn't great collectively either in those windows. The results were better than the team was actually looking and the team was playing. So it was really, in a lot of ways, I think a continuation. There were some red flags that really appeared in this window that maybe weren't there before, or weren't as evident before. But in a lot of ways, it was a real continuation in terms of style of play and the way things were looking on the field from what had come before.
Yeah. Yeah, not a good window for Mexico. JD.
Thanks, guys, for having me yet again. Jamaica drew 2 games in a row. The first one was against El Salvador. El Salvador did what every other team did to Jamaica, outpassed them. So they did so, and Jamaica got a very good goal from Mikel Antonio. As you know, he's the new captain Jamaica. So we have a new hope. Yes, so he did so. And then for a few more minutes, Jamaica just couldn't close it off just to get that win. But it was an undeserved lead, to be honest. But at the end of the day, you're leading and a few more minutes left. And to be honest, El Salvador could have won the game. They scored. And then after that, they had a good chance to score yet again. So I think they definitely need to tighten up on certain defensive errors and stop leaving extra squares in the box. But we talked the last time about the wing backs and talk about pushing them up the field, that at least you can have more center backs on the field. But for some reason, they didn't do it. They stayed with the wing backs them. And clearly, the right backs them they are just struggling to defend. I don't think they are right backs. They should have stopped play right now and just go on the field with 10 players, because it doesn't make any sense, And then for the United States game, we pretty much bank 10 behind the ball and just leave Antonio. But the problem is Antonio is so dangerous. So you guys couldn't get to advance your defenders. They have to always be there watching him. So you kind of keep the pressure off us. And then maybe Leon Bailey could have got into the game. But to tell you the honest truth, he didn't have a good game. So nothing never materialized. We are lucky to actually come out of the game with the 1-1 draw. Now, obviously, we are going to look at the fact that we scored a goal and it should have been a legitimate goal, yes. And maybe an handball could have called and that would have been awarded as a penalty. But if you look at the honesty of play, we could have had a red card against us and then would have been down. So that in itself, if it was VAR, believe me, most things wouldn't even happen, because maybe after that red card, you guys would have had that advantage. So I can't cry for certain things because I didn't get certain things. You understand me? Because certain things would have gone against
us. I'd say they balance each other out.
Yes,
the red card and then also the goal.
Yes, I have to be honest. So for me, I'm going to be a little bit harsh because I expected Mikel Antonio should have been playing in the El Salvador game. I even know I can't get that excuse of telling me about he only can play 15 minutes. It doesn't make any sense, because I've tried my best to call West Ham and everyone, and everything I got is no, you can't interfere with players playing for their country. So they wouldn't give them that instruction to play in 15 minutes. So that makes no logical sense. But at the end of the day, I would give them a D-.
D-.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
D-. Yeah.
I have a question. Is Tapa Whitmore fired? Is that official?
No, he's not fired. Okay. I have released a video on my channel because the president himself said he doesn't know anything about that. So the individuals that putting it out, it's not the case right now. And the individual, which is the ill guy from England, he's not hired as well, because the guy is not fired. So I guess it's some fake news, at least for now.
All right. Josh, look at that smile, people. You look like the third Arrington brother right now.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here. I'm very humble. Just wondering, Pete, you wouldn't happen to have tax crown, would you?
I wouldn't. You'd have to win a trophy to get that crown.
Oh, okay. All right. Back down to earth.
Actual trophies first.
All right. Back down to earth. We're good. But no, I mean, in all honesty, for Canadian football, this was a window you dream of. I mean, let's be honest. We took 6 points for 6. We were at home in freezing cold weather in Edmonton. We beat Costa Rica, which is no team to take lightly whatsoever. And on top of that, we were able to take on Mexico. And like Owen said, got our first win over them since the 2000 Gold Cup quarterfinal, which I don't even know what that Mexican side looked like. I have no idea if it was their strongest or not, but this is World Cup qualifying. This is a different animal. Heard a couple news stories about different nations using their elements to their advantage. Canada, I guess, kind of did that. I personally don't think the cold weather really helped anyone. I think it made it miserable for just about everybody there. I think, and the biggest influence to that was Alfonso Davies had a pretty poor window. I mean, he did. He was very, very quiet. I don't know if it was the nerves of going back to Edmonton, never playing in front of his hometown crowd, but yeah, the first game against Costa Rica, we got a lucky goal, sort of. I mean, we were definitely the better side. It looked like it was going to be one of those frustrating 0-0s until a keeper mistake, dropped the ball. David was quick to pounce, put it in the back of the net. 1-0, walked away with 3 points. And then the good one against Owen's boys. We went up against Mexico right before halftime, got an important goal. It was on Ochoa. It was a relatively easy save. He probably should have just palmed it out for a corner just a little bit further, but he just put it right back in the path of Laren to make it 1-0. And then in the second half, John Herdman and the guys didn't lay off, and Canada was a better team for pretty much 80 minutes. We scored a second one to make it 2-0, but the last 10 minutes was very up in the air. Canada, again, they had a chance to make it 3-0, but I think the weather affected Buchanan in some way, shape, or form to not bury that. And Mexico got back in it, and then we're inches away from drawing it. So a little game management, I guess, to reflect on a little bit from Herdman in terms of a couple of substitutions. The decision to play Daniel Henry was an interesting one, putting Cavallini on. But, I mean, at the end of the day, we got 6 points, and it's a huge, huge, huge thing for Canadian soccer. So I guess if I'm going to rate the window, I'd probably give it an A, just because the last 10 minutes of the Mexico game did scare me. I think we got lucky in the end to get away with it, even though we deserved the 3 points. And the fact that Panama just won't go away is frustrating. So, I mean, it could have been nicer, because that fourth spot is 2 points. Canada is sitting nice in first, but fourth place is 14. And if Canada ends up in 14, there's no guarantee we're going to a World Cup. So
I just found out this morning it's going to be a single playoff leg. So one game in a
mhm.
neutral location. And we don't know
And
if it's going to be against
we still
Asia
don't
or
know who it's
Oceania or
against.
South America. But
Depends
one
on
game.
who finishes fourth. Depends
What?
on who finishes fourth, probably. Just, I mean, do you think they'd play, you know, if it were Mexico or the United States in fourth, that they put them against South America, for example?
I mean, I'm
just
curious to see what
speculating,
FIFA's
but-
going to do. If they put us against,
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to put us against South America. If it's Mexico or the United States. If it's Panama,
No.
sure.
Exactly.
But if it's Mexico or the U.S., they're going to be like, no, we need them in the World Cup. I hope. Maybe not, though. FIFA's not a big fan of the U.S. for obvious reasons. So maybe not. Look, it is what you're saying, Josh, is spot on. There's 2 points between first and fourth, and that's going to make the next 6 games just wild, right? Panama still has to play all of us away, right? In Mexico, in Canada, and in the U.S. So, I mean, I'm curious to see how they're going to handle that. They've had their easiest games thus far. I still think they're going to struggle.
No,
right?
they've already gone to Canada.
Yeah,
They've already gone to Canada.
We got to go there. I believe the
you
last
gotta
game.
go there. Okay.
Last game of the octagonal. I'm pretty sure.
Oh, okay. So they only have to come to the U.S. and Mexico, which, you know, with our inconsistent form, anything can happen, right? I mean,
And
you
they
think at home we would both do okay, but
and they haven't looked terrible on the road either.
no,
also keep in mind they've gotten a couple of good, you know, I think they've lost twice and won twice on the road so far.
Yeah.
So they're not, you know, you can't discount them on the road, definitely.
So I'll just talk quickly about the U.S.'s window. Obviously, we beat Mexico 2-0 at home in a, you know, 2-0 win. That was very good for morale. Third time this year that we beat Mexico. The difference was in the summer, we sort of like scraped by with the skin of our teeth. You know, I think in the Gold Cup that, you know, Mexico missed a lot of chances. We missed a few as well, but it was a pretty even game. I wouldn't say we dominated. Mexico dominated possession, but in terms of chance creation, it was about even. But in the Nations League final, it was fairly uneven, you know, and we scrapped our way through set pieces and grit to, you know, to win. But in this win, we looked comfortable for the win. We looked like we deserved it. We dominated play. We pressed them high up the field. We consistently won the ball back. And outside of the first 20 minutes or so, we kept Mexico pretty quiet. So that was great, 2-0 win. And then you have that classic, you know, trap game after the emotional high that, you know, Mexico was, to go down to Jamaica, to bring the same level of intensity, to bring, you know, the same level of desire and hunger and to just be brave to play, you know. And Berhalter got the lineups right, which was encouraging to see. But our depth hurt us once again because we missed Weston for sure. I wouldn't say we missed Miles Robinson, but I thought the defense was mostly fine. So I was okay with that. You know, Yunus Musa had strep throat. And so that, you know, our two of our more dynamic midfielders now become sort of non-factors. So now it makes it a little difficult. We didn't have, you know, quality on the bench. We left a lot of quality at home, and I think that hurt us. I also think that Berhalter played for the draw. By the 60th minute, we were actually starting to build up a head of steam and build some momentum, and we were starting to play the way I wanted us to play. And then he pulls off our best attackers, including Tim Weah, and he puts on some defensive players. I mean, he brings on Christian Pulisic, but he brings on Kellen Acosta, which basically changes the face of the midfield. So, and then he brought on Pau Areola, which is another defensive sub. I think Berhalter played for the draw. That being said, we missed a golden opportunity to really go top of the table and put some distance between us and Panama. We didn't do that. So now we're still in second. We're still in the mix, and there's no room for error now for any of us three, to be honest, you know, or Panama. Like you have a bad game and that's 3 points dropped, and all of a sudden you're looking at, you know, being in fourth spot. I mean, we're 1 point ahead of Panama. So is Mexico. So I'm going to give the United States a B, because I said before the window that 4 was the bare minimum of acceptability for this window, which we did get 4. We should have gotten 6. And again, there's still issues with the tactics. There's still issues with I think the worst thing for me is mentality. As soon as the game's over, Paul Areola is saying, oh, it's hard to play away. U.S. Soccer is saying a draw away is good. It's just we're still stuck in old mindsets of win at home, draw away. And while that's enough to probably qualify you for the World Cup, I think for the player pool that we have and the roster that we have, we should expect better from this team. And we still struggle with that mentality at times. So let's dig into a lot of different things. And start off, I guess, just talking about, I want to ask Owen, what are they saying in Mexico? Because this can't be for the media and the fan base. I mean, what's the general feeling over there?
So I think there's a lot of calls for Tata Martino's head, of course, reactionary. But I think something that's been encouraging, what a lot of the talk has been is what's kind of led to this. Why are Mexico in this position? Why is the talent pool seemingly so thin, and why is there not a generation of young players that's really coming through and making themselves known and making a difference now in a time when you've got veterans like Hector Herrera, for example, Tecatito Corona, who are barely playing at their clubs and who have been struggling now for a number of months with the national team, that you don't have players who can come in and replace those veterans, those better known players. And there's been a lot of recrimination about problems that are happening in Liga MX that have been happening for years now, getting rid of promotion, relegation, different agreements that there are between the owners. The league is basically run by a couple of owners, always prioritizing financial concerns over actual concerns of making the national team as good as it can possibly be. The agreement with Soccer United Marketing that's been in place now for the better part of 2 decades. Things of that nature that are really hurting Mexico and really hurting the production of young talent, I think, is a big worry. You look at that. You look at the match against the United States. The United States, the average age of that team is 23.6. The average age of the Mexico team is 28.9. And I've spoken at different points and I've said, okay, that's actually a strength for Mexico. You have players who have been to World Cups, who have been there and done that. And I think to a certain case, that's also true. But the big issue is, okay, then if those players are underperforming, where's the next generation? And that's not really there for Mexico right now. I think that's a big worry beyond this World Cup cycle. I think they still have what it takes to make this World Cup. And then in 2026, you'll obviously be there. But with these problems that have been happening now in Mexico for decades, that are really hurting the generation of young talent, and how you're producing those players and how many players you're producing, and then exporting to Europe, that's a whole nother issue as well. Having the talent is one thing, but then the prices you're quoting European clubs and facilitating those exits to is also a real problem in Mexico. Comparing it to the United States, for example, and the things that they've done to create this golden generation, a lot of those things just don't happen in Mexico. I think that's a real worry, medium term, long term for Mexican soccer in general, and then the national team.
There wasn't any player outside of Johann Vasquez under 23 in Mexico's roster. Should that be worrying to the Mexican public, or is it a case of Tata doesn't trust young players? Because you look at guys like Arteaga, who I know has been blackballed, but a very good left back. Julian Araujo, maybe he's not an elite right back right now, but watching Chaca Rodriguez run around, you can't help but think that at least Araujo would offer something to this team. And then you do have guys like JJ Macias over at Getafe, and a few others who you think, oh, how come they're not involved here? Because it can't be that much worse than what we're seeing.
Right. I think you have to treat it on a case-by-case basis, on a position-by-position basis. I think at right back, you've got Jorge Sanchez there at Club America, who's also quite young, who's on the Olympic team, who started against Canada. And I think after what Chaka's shown in recent months, certainly against the United States, I'd expect Sanchez to be the starter there moving forward. I think you could bring Araujo in as another option. Left back is another one where I think, like you're saying, I think giving Arteaga a chance. There are rumors now that blackballing will now be lifted heading into January. I think that really needs to happen. Gallardo is he's the player with the most matches and the most minutes under Tata Martino, and he's been consistently underperforming now for a long time. Along with Chaka, was a real weak link against the United States, not only defensively, but also, and this was seen against Canada too. The times he does get forward, the service that he's putting in, the deliveries that he's putting in, are a lot of times are leaving a lot to be desired. For a player who came up at Pumas as a winger, who's more suited to being a winger or a wing back than he is really being a left back. When he gets into forward positions, a lot of times isn't producing the goods either. So that's a position where I think it would be great to see Arteaga come in further forward. In midfield, the issue is there's not really that player, that cerebral type of player who could maybe replicate what Hector Herrera can give you on his best days. Charlie Rodriguez isn't really in good form. And this is also another discussion too, just with Mexico. You're talking about these players, these young players who are in the Olympic team. They're all 23 or 24. For a lot of those players, in terms of then going to Europe, et cetera, it's already too late. Anyway, so Mexico don't really have that you know, you have players who are definitely younger than Herrera who could maybe come in and do a job, but no one who's ready to take that mantle and really grab the bull by the horns, so to speak, right now in that area. I think Tata is right to persist with Herrera in that sector. And then further forward, I think you've got Diego Lainez, who I think will come into these future squads. He was injured or had just come back from an injury. He's also under 23. So that will add at least one more player. And then Alexis Vega as well, while over 23, was, I think, the standout from the Olympic team that won the bronze medal. And he's really been beset by injury over these last few months. But he's been quite good when he's played for the Mexican national team now during this qualifying cycle. And I would expect him to come in January as well and potentially start. I think you could see him start on the left. You could put Chucky on the right and demote Tecatito to the bench. He was on the bench against Canada, but keep him there. And you also have Lainez as an option off the bench as well. So there are some younger players that weren't in this squad through injury or for other reasons, with Arteaga specifically. But you know, you're counting on one hand really the number of players who could come in. It's not, you know, for a country like Mexico, who have dominated CONCACAF for so long, who have been, you know, the country with the real pedigree in CONCACAF, and a huge population, a soccer mad country. You know, it's really slim pickings right now. You know, of players coming through.
Yeah, it really is. JD, two draws doesn't feel terrible, but for Jamaica to really contend for that fourth spot, how many points behind Panama are they now?
We are on 7 points, and remember, naturally we need to accumulate upwards of 21 points. So 22 points could force something. So if we get 5 wins and a draw, no, 5 wins. 5 wins could do it out of 6. It's almost impossible, but I still believe that the attitude from the USA game, most people believe that we were robbed, including myself, because I thought that the goal should have stood just the same. But obviously, we talked about if the VAR was in, you know, it could have went both ways, you know. So yes, but at the end of the day, I saw that from Mikel Antonio in. If we can get the ball to him, I think he's pretty much dominant in like the style of play. The only thing I was surprised is Chris Richards. Oh, he played well in the year with Mikel Antonio. That was a surprise to me.
That did not surprise me at all.
Really?
Yeah, he's been doing it for a year in the Bundesliga now. This is not
but Van Dijk had problems. Matip had problems with this dude, and then Chris. So you're going to tell me that Chris Richards is better than Van Dijk?
Well, he knows how to handle Antonio better than Van Dijk. No, I think Chris Richards is very underrated still, including by our own federation and our own coach. The fact that he's not an automatic starter for us is baffling.
He did good in the year. That's one thing I know. He's a good, solid defender growing up. So I think you need to give him some time. But at least he got a good experience there, you know. And but I'm tired of Mikel Antonio not getting a chance in a game.
So why didn't he start against El Salvador? What's the reason?
Their excuse was West Ham gave them that instruction. It never came from the federation, so I'm not going to blame the federation this time. It just came from out the media. And a lot of people inside the media saying, no, I'm not believing that because that does not sound right. It just, I honestly believe that the coach believed that Shamar Nicholson is better than Antonio.
No.
Yes, I think so. I think a lot of people that's watching this video will tell you the same thing. It took Antonio to score one of the best goals you can find this season in the CONCACAF for him to get a start for the next game. I honestly
and then he pulled out another amazing goal.
He pulled out even a better one.
Yeah, that's 2 like solo goals. Like it was all Antonio, both of those goals. You know. It's
yes. Like, so now it's just Antonio and 10 players.
Yeah, that's what it feels like, right?
Just any 10 players, you just put him on the field and just organize them properly to defend and just get the ball to him. But the problem is we are struggling to get the ball to him because the coach, for some reason, he just believed that Liam Moore and Ravel Morris is just not good. The guy started Lamar Walker. Best thing happened to Lamar Walker in his career is a meme on Twitter. Falling on his head after trying to finish a chance when Antonio already scored the chance. That's the best thing the guy did in the game. It can't get worse. So I think that's why they went into a meeting and said, no. This needs to stop now. You have one of the most naturally gifted attacking midfielder on the bench. But because you can't get along with the guy, because the last time he said, when he talks to him, he doesn't listen. So that's the reason you're going to hold up the entire country, because a man doesn't listen to you. Maybe you're just not that good. That's why no one taking conversation from you. First, he said, listen to this, guys. I want your subscriber to hear this. He's the head coach, and he said he doesn't talk to the UK-based guys then.
He doesn't talk to them?
Guys, just check on YouTube. It's on YouTube. Believe me. He said he doesn't talk to them. So he leaves the assistant coach, which is an English guy, to talk to the UK guys then. Oof. What kind of understanding you can get if you have two different teams on the field?
Yeah. It feels like a big divide for him, where maybe he feels like, some of these English guys aren't really. Does he feel like they're not really Jamaican? Like, what's the issue?
And I just believe that it's not just him. You have a lot of people that believes that they are not true Jamaicans. And that's the biggest problem. But I can tell you, based on the play, Liam Moore and Mikel Antonio, you couldn't tell that they are not Jamaicans, according to most of these people. Because these guys are playing their heart out more than all of these guys.
Right.
So I can't
that's
understand.
the only thing, right?
I know, I just can't understand. And I think that's why I'm glad that you brought up that point, because it's something to settle. It's really big in the culture. We talk about it majority of the days, because I came in and said it's one Jamaica, because remember, I have the experience to be outside, understand the England culture and understand the Jamaican culture. And I'm just telling people that most of these guys have been oppressed in England. So give them a chance to be somebody in Jamaica. Even though they are big stars, they don't get treated the same way. So you can't let them come to Jamaica and you treat them ridiculously bad.
Yeah.
You're telling a man that he can't play for Jamaica when Jamaica can't qualify in the CONCACAF, and he's one of the best players in England.
Yeah.
That makes no logical sense, But it's very sad still, and I'm hoping that we can improve it. My best three players on the night, I would say, was when Taxi Lawrence went down. You have a guy called Greg Lee came on. Taxi Lawrence, I heard he was injured before the game started, and they forced him to play. And then he came off injured at halftime. And when you saw Greg Lee, you wondered, like, why is it Taxi started in the first place? Yeah. Because this man is just terrible, pure better than him. He's just pure naturally better than him. Yeah. Big, faster, stronger, and just looks like he has a different level of footballing intelligence. So when I think they need to get rid of him. I have to honestly say that.
You mean Taxi Lawrence or Tapa Whitmore?
No, Tapa. Even Taxi Lawrence, just get rid of them, man. I honestly believe you can get better players. They are there. Yeah. They just need to get the better players. Every single time you're wondering, oh, is it you just found this better player? What's up with the scouting? So Greg Lay, he came back 2 times. He played for two segments. He played for Jamaica. He looks like one of the best players in the park. But the last time he was too good, so they didn't call him back.
So JD, there's one thing like with the the lineups that we're talking about in the player selection, which I think a lot of us in CONCACAF sometimes struggle with our coaches, lineup decisions. But tactically, what is Tapa Whitmore trying to do? Because when I watch Jamaica, I struggle to find anything that feels like a cohesive idea of how they want to play.
You don't need to struggle, because I think you got it right from the start. I don't think he knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
That's why I said there's 10 players and Mikel Antonio. Simple. Right. Because everything he sets up, doesn't work, because he has Mr. Johann Watson, the dancehall guy, which is 50 years old. Yes, he's on the field and he was tired before 27 minutes. And tell you what, he has the ex-Chelsea player, Anthony Grant, that's one of the best players. But because the guy can't get on with him, or they had a little bust up according to what I heard. No, not bust up, but just exchanged of words. But I guess in his head, it's a bust up. So obviously he started over him. So it's getting embarrassing, because the guy can't play more than 27 minutes and he seems to can't tackle a player.
So essentially what we're seeing from Jamaica is a lack of any tactical identity combined with the coach seeming to prefer the local Jamaican players over, the English guys or the quote unquote
established,
English.
not established English guys, because
Right.
they are recognized worldwide, but for some reason they are not recognized for the same attributes in Jamaica. So it's getting bad. But for me, my three better players, Greg Lee, Liam Moore came in from the start this time. So thanks Theodore Whitmore to play the actual best centre back, and he turns out to be one of the best centre backs them on the pitch the entire game on both teams. And then Michael Antonio. Yes, those are my three players.
Yeah. Okay. Josh, I'm sure you have a lot to say. What I really want to know, obviously, apart from your thoughts overall on the window, but I want to know how Herdman beat Mexico. That's what I'm curious. How did he do it?
I honestly believe he's got these guys convinced that they can win against anyone, and it's a hard thing to do, and it's hard for even like myself to grab the realization that we can get 3 points from Mexico. I've grown up my whole life supporting the Canadian national team, and there hasn't been a lot to support. I mean, I was too young to follow the 2000s, and after that, I've told this story in here before, being excited that we scored a goal in Gold Cup. Just that fact that we just got a goal, got a draw, didn't win, just got a draw. It was cool. Times have changed, and still, even in my mentality is to think it's crazy to think that we can go into Mexico and win. And I think a really good, if you watch the game, a really good reasoning to that is that John Herdman, like I said, he's got all these guys buying into the situation, buying into the system. We can play in the different formations we played over the past couple windows: 4-2-3-1, 3-5-2, 3-4-3, 4-4-2. Whatever he asks of his players, they deliver. And then not only against Mexico, which you have to show them respect. I mean, it's Mexico, but we took the lead right before halftime, and there's that psychological debate: is do you sit back or do you continue attacking, continue putting pressure down some of the older legs on this Mexican side? And when the second half came out, I was curious. I had a feeling, because it's Herdman, that we were going to go full throttle, and we again took the match to them. And I think it just pure determination, a couple good pieces of moments, like beautiful set piece from Eustachio. And it's just driving the mentality that this Canadian men's national team can fight with the best of them. And I think that was what they did. And they all delivered. They all bought into the system, used the advantage. I mean, I was a little wary when Tata played that back three system, because when I talk with Owen, he's primarily only using that 4-3-3. We're used to using a ton of different systems. So I was thinking it's going to work to our advantage, the fact that he switched up shape with a group that isn't playing very well and not used to this system going up against Canada. And I think it kind of backfired in some way. And the only bad thing about that match is the last 10 minutes, where we got a little scrambly. They got one, the nerves settled in, but we got the job done. But I really think it's a mentality check that Herdman deserves a lot of credit for.
Yeah. It's interesting to me, after they got the draw in Azteca, and hearing John Herdman talk about how they're not happy with that and they feel like they should have gotten 3 points, for me, speaks to the mentality, right? Because we get a draw in Jamaica, and instantly we have our federation and our players talking about how hard it is to win away and how this is a good result. Like, it's just a different mentality right now from John Herdman. And I think that is so crucial to talk about, how much the coach's mentality and the expectations, where he puts the bar, rubs off on players and thus on fans and on the program. To hear him talk like that, I really think he's got them. I mean, he wasn't a big name, right? I mean, he wasn't a big sexy hire. He was in charge of the women's team, right? And then they brought him into the men's team, and he didn't have much of a CV before that you could look at and go, oh, wow. But man, for me, probably the best coach in CONCACAF right now. Yeah,
I've said that a few times. And honestly, I don't think it's a crazy debate. I mean, we know how Greg's perceived, how Tata's perceived. I mean, I don't even want to get into to JD's boy over there, but no, I don't think it's a crazy debate. But what he's doing, the only other debate I think would be Panama's, because what he's achieving as well is incredible. But for Herdman, he's also got some other winners in this Canadian side. I mean, Alfonso Davies at his young age has won just about everything. Kyle Larin has won a lot with Besiktas. We have Jonathan David, who just came off winning Liga. So there are some winners in that who have been in some tough situations, and I think that's helping the rest of the side buying in, because in all honesty, this looked like a very top-heavy team. The top three is one of the best, if not the best, in CONCACAF. The midfield's pretty solid, and there's always question marks around the back end. But what Herdman has basically instilled into this back line, into this setup, and I said it, every time they come and push comes to shove, they do a job and they get it done. And you've seen some pretty impressive performances. And And I guess if we're going to get into like the three players that you wanted me to go over in terms of how I rated them this window, one of the names that pops right up is Sam Adakubi, who's a player who moved on over to Turkey. He's playing phenomenally there. His side, I believe, is Hasaspor, who's sitting in second. But he's been a revelation at left back. And not only that, he played and started in both matches, but he was man of the match in the first one and had a really good game as well, showing a different side of his game because he's always kind of a defensive 6 or defensive number 3 to me. The left back, defensives. And he played very, very well. But on top of that, he brought in a different part of his game I didn't even know he had. Nutmegging players, going up, having a kind of a free role that John Herman allowed him to do, and he absolutely thrived at it. Eustachio is a player who I just can't praise enough. The fact that we got him to commit to the Canadian men's national side and he hasn't got to move yet to a bigger side is unbelievable because he's everything. He pulls the strings. He dropped very, very deep a little bit in that Costa Rica matches because he likes to have the opportunity to have the ball, pick up passes. His set piece delivery is spectacular, which is another huge credit to this Canadian men's national team, especially having a player like Vittori up there. And then Kyle Larin. And not only did John Herman go into that last match with the top league on scorer in Jonathan David, he put him on the bench for Kyle Larin, which is could be a head scratcher. I've come to learn not to judge Herman too much because usually what he decides pays off, and Kyle Larin goes out there, scores a brace, and not only does it on the attacking side, but he won back-to-back defensive plays, 2 headers and a defensive clearance late in the match. So he just got everyone buying in. It's a mentality, and it's wild to have. And some of the fans that you might know on Twitter are starting to believe a little bit that we're untouchable. I'm trying to stay humble because I know how dangerous it still is, and even the qualification. But I can't be any happier with the job he's done. Just a little bit of game management things, but all in all, I'm very happy root Canadian.
Has Canada ever gone to the World Cup?
Yes, we've gone. The last one was 1986, so it has been a long time.
So it has been a while, and looking very likely, right? Based on so far, I mean, looks like a very, very good shot to qualify for the first World Cup in 35 years. So that'll be very cool. As far as me and Owen should do the 3 players, I feel like I've covered the U.S. in detail, sort of what we're up against. We still are very one-dimensional. We have one system and one approach. And when that's not working, we don't have a plan B, right? We have some great players. We don't always look greater than the sum of our parts. I think one thing about the Mexico game was we did look like that. We looked greater than the sum of our parts for, maybe one of the first times under Greg Berhalter, certainly in a high stakes game like that. One thing should look really good against Costa Rica at home. It's another thing against Mexico. And so that was great. But then against Jamaica, when things were not going our way, our response was, let's just sit back and try to, hold on to a draw, which I'm personally not a fan of. I see arguments for it, like maybe it's just not their day, right? And so you take the away draw. I can see that argument. I think that's an old mentality that comes out of where American soccer has been for the last 20 years, and that we need to raise our level of expectation with this player pool that we have now and expect more and demand more. So it wasn't a terrible window for us, but still concerns. There's still concerns about the roster, who Greg considers to be our B players and our depth. And a lot of people think that doesn't matter, but it does, because when you lose Weston to suspension and then you lose Yunus Musa to strep throat, who's in your midfield is going to matter. And there were guys we probably should have brought. Luca De La Torre is somebody that I've been advocating for a long time. One of the best players in the Dutch league this year, outside of maybe Ajax, in terms of his work rate and his chance creation and a lot of things. And it's just bizarre to me that he doesn't get called up. Daryl Dike, we didn't have a plan B. We have an 18-year-old striker who, is 18 and didn't have his best camp. He did, his one-touch layoffs were mostly good. Some of his movement was good, but he also struggled in possession. He struggled to hold up the ball. He struggled under pressure sometimes. And it's like, why didn't we bring another striker? Jesus Ferreira, Greg thinks he's a striker. I personally don't think he is. And that's not really a guy you want to rely on either. So it's like, we could have had Daryl Dike. If you need a late win against Jamaica, you bring on Daryl Dike and you get crosses into the box, and Daryl Dike is a guy who can physically hang with the Jamaican defenders. Jesus Ferreira, not so much. And so it's just our lack of a plan B when things aren't going well continues to be hurting us. But 4 points is 4 points. We'll see how we do. There's no margin for error now. The 3 players that I think impressed me the most from this camp were obviously Tim Weah. I mean, Tim Weah was a thorn in the side of Mexico the entire first game. and then got that beautiful goal against Jamaica. He tired a little bit in the second half against Jamaica. You know, they pulled him off around the 60th. But yeah, he really came into his own. When we were missing Pulisic and Reina, it was like, okay, well, who's going to step up in a big game like this, you know, and stake their claim? And it was Tim Weah, you know, who has been unfairly treated in the past. He hasn't gotten as many opportunities, in my opinion, as he deserved. Paul Arriola was preferred to him notoriously in the last camp. But yeah, Tim Weah. The second one would be Yunus Musa, just turning 19, like at the end of this month, I believe, was one of our best players against Mexico. His ability to receive the ball, you know, from the defensive third and literally take it through the middle of the field himself, right? Our big problem in the past has been, you know, the build out from the defensive third to the middle third to the attacking third. That's where we've really struggled. Yunus Musa feels like he receives the ball and goes, don't worry, I've got the midfield third. You guys worry about everything else. And he just drives through the middle of the park, taking players out on the dribble, and then usually finds a good pass too. The third player, Walker Zimmerman, you know, had that moment against Jamaica where you're like, oof. But overall was very good in the air. Against Mexico was excellent stopping against the counterattack. There was one moment where Jimenez was probably through on goal, and Walker just gets back in time and makes that last-ditch tackle. I think there was a positioning issue on that. It's the other thing when someone makes a last-ditch tackle, it's usually because of a defensive breakdown. But he was really strong in the air and very good at, you know, keeping Raul quiet against him. He struggled with his distribution under pressure, which did not surprise me. And against Jamaica, oftentimes he killed attacks by lumping the ball over the top instead of trying to keep it. So that's still an issue that we should be concerned about. But overall, he definitely raised his stock and was one of the better players in this camp. Oh, and I believe you didn't get to do your three yet.
Yeah, so it's a difficult task picking out three. Had to think about this one for a while. I think Edson Alvarez. I mean, against the United States, I think Mexico were overrun in midfield, and they didn't really control the midfield battle very well either against Canada. But I think he's the one player from the match in Cincinnati for the Mexicans to come out with real credit or any credit. And one of the players who, you know, opposed to the Hector Herreras of the world, the Tecatito Coronas, who are struggling for game time in Europe, and seem to be on a downward curve. He's a player who's really been shining at Ajax, going from strength to strength over the last 11, 12 months or so. And I think he did well. You know, again, not a great window for Mexico in general, but I think he's a player who showed that he's still someone that needs to be one of the first players on the team sheet. Also, towards the end of the Canada match, he gets into he's on the bench. He gets into a screaming match with someone who's on the field. It's not clear who it is, but he's swearing at them. A player with a lot of character as well, who brings that leadership quality, those intangibles. Johann Vasquez would be my second player. So he gets his third and fourth caps, his first two caps in competitive matches against the United States and against Canada. A player who moved to Genoa this summer, one of the few young players from Mexico who's getting a move to Europe, and has started playing a lot now at Genoa. Has been a starter the last 5 matches there. Looks like he's gonna become a consistent starter for that side. Comes in. I don't think he was necessarily at fault for any of the 4 goals. I think that's probably the best you could say about a defender for Mexico this window. Solid enough. I think he's a player who's still, you know, the big problem I think for Mexico that's appeared now recently, and I think it has a lot to do with Hector Herrera struggling, is Mexico are struggling to deal with other sides pressuring them high up the pitch and also play out from the back really well, really quickly and fluidly. Herrera is the player who, when he's doing well, when he's in form, you saw this in the Gold Cup, he's the player, he's the metronome, he's getting on the ball a ton. And so in the absence of a player like that, it puts a lot more pressure on your defenders to do it. And I think that's something that Vasquez still struggles with a little bit. I think on the ball, he's not the best. I think he'll clean that up certainly a lot in Italy as he continues to develop, still a young player. But I think for his first 2 competitive matches, playing in the United States, playing in Canada against 2 difficult teams, I don't think he did poorly. And then the third I was really struggling with, because I thought, okay, who was the standout player for Mexico against Canada and what was a poor performance? I would say Tecatito Corona comes on and does well in the second half, I thought. Still looks a ways off his best. Not really taking players on. just more putting in good crosses, which he's able to do. But I think for that really, really poor, diabolical, you could even say, performance against the United States, I don't think you could put him there. So I gave it to Roberto Alvarado, the Cruz Azul man, who also came on for the start of the second half in Edmonton. I thought looked good. He created or was on the end of a couple of chances, pretty tame finishes. Both weren't too difficult to save, but a player who's in good form at club level. He scored a hat trick for Cruz Azul in his most recent match. Although not a forward, more of a wide player, kind of cerebral attacking number 10 type, but he does have a knack for getting in goal scoring positions. I don't think he's necessarily going to be a starter going forward, but an option off the bench definitely if Mexico are chasing a goal moving forward in future matches.
All right. And then let's just briefly go around again and talk about 3 players that disappointed us in this cycle. JD, you want to start?
All right, my 3 players. The first one was the 40-year-old man. Obviously, he couldn't get up off the pitch once he walked on the pitch. So in both games, so it never really made much sense. He struggled to make a tackle in the first game. So, and that's the reason he's there for. So clearly, he didn't do anything. So Johann Watson made the list. We don't have to give any stats on him because he didn't do anything more than this. Yes. And then after that, we have Andre Blake. The surprise package. We knew him as a shot stopper. People always say he's one of the best in the region. I truly believe that he's very good as a shot stopper, but as an overall goalkeeper to revolutionize a system and play passing football from long ball FC, it's not going to work because believe me, he can't kick the ball out. Short or long. His passing percentage over 2 matches, it was 41 and 43. And you might say, okay, it's percentage. But he took 32 passes and he completed 41%, 13 of 32 and 15 of 35. Basically, and the long balls, 29 out of 28 and 9 out of 28 in 2 games.
It felt like a lot of their long, sorry to interrupt you, a lot of their long balls, they were just trying to get it to Mikel Antonio, right? That kind of felt like the strategy.
Mikel Antonio only played 15 minutes in the El Salvador game. So I guess he's trying to find him on the bench. That can't be an excuse for him.
At least against the US. That's what I know. But,
I can understand, but you can't find an excuse for him. The man is very poor with passing out from the back. I've been saying it from the World Cup. I think that's what's stopping us. You have 2 players, him and Damian Lowe. For some reason, they believe that they should not keep the ball and they should just kick it away and then defend. Yeah. Because Damian Lowe is good at defending, but if you don't have to give away the ball, I think you don't have to defend, right? If you have the ball, you don't have to defend because you have the ball. You know, but for some reason he believes he needs to kick the ball away to defend more. Yes, but anyways, Damian Lowe, he was okay over the 2 games, and even though he was integral towards the goal that scored against us, because he was the one that ran on to Pepe, and Pepe smartly just shipped it to way in the space and just run between him and Bobby Reed, and then just push it to the far post and beat Andre Blake there. It's very, very, very easily, and it's not Andre Blake's fault; it's Damian Lowe's fault. But I tactically break it down on my channel, so everyone knows that I am actually correct. So Andre Blake and 40-year-old man, Johann Watson, and then I have to go and get Mr. Boy, Leon Bailey. I think a lot of people will be upset, but Leon Bailey has not played a good game for Jamaica since playing for Jamaica. And these 2, I think he wants to forget him very, very fast. You get me? I don't know if it's because Mikel Antonio came on and did what he did in both games. It put more pressure on him to try. He was trying over the top. He gave away the ball so much time. I thought that he gave away the ball in the USA game 22 times. That's not good. And he has failed to beat a player for the longest while. I think he needs to take it simple, or else he's going to find it harder and harder, because every time 2 players trapped him, he seems to can't get around them. One just stay away from him, he beats one, and then they just take the ball after, and he's trying to beat the second one. So I'm very sorry, but Leon Bailey made my list. So Leon Bailey, Andre Blake, and Johann Watson.
All right, Josh.
I mean, it's hard finding like a negative performance, I guess, because we had a very successful window. But if I'm just looking at pure expectations of what I'm expecting from each and every player, not that I'm saying one of these three players had a poor showing, the other two had just a little below average performance because I have such a high bar for them. So the first two is going to be Alfonso Davies and Tejeon Buchanan, two players who I love. They can do a job just about anywhere on the pitch, from right wing back to right wing. Put them at striker, doesn't matter. But Davies, I think just the homecoming got to him a little psychologically. I think he tried a little bit too much, and I don't want to discourage him because that's what makes Alfonso Davies so special. But there was a lot of times he was 1v2, and instead of making that little pass and using his speed, which is his biggest asset, he tried to dribble through and ended up turning over the ball a lot more than he should have. And I don't think anyone else could argue that Davies had two relatively below average games considering how high his expectations are. And the other same thing kind of goes for Tejeon. I don't think he was as poor, and I shouldn't say poor, but like he had a better performance, I guess, relative to his expectations than Davies did, but he just didn't offer a whole lot. He used a little bit of his speed from time to time, didn't create a whole bunch of chances, was just kind of quiet, doing his part on a very standard portion. But I expect a lot more. Tejeon Buchanan is a very exciting player, as is Alfonso Davies. I love seeing them utilize their speed. That's both of their biggest assets, but I think the temperature, Edmonton, there's a bunch of different factors why they both had relatively average or a little under average windows. The other one was clearly Daniel Henry, who came on in the second match as a starter. There was, in my eyes, there was no reason. I haven't really figured out why. There's some debate. Maybe Vittoria just wasn't up for it. The knees were hurting maybe on the turf. I don't know what made it in a 2-game window that Daniel Henry started this, but it was a disaster from the off. He came into like 3 or 4 rash challenges, picked up a very, very aggressive challenge on Chucky Lozano seconds into the game, and eventually picked up a yellow, which easily could have been a second yellow if they would have gave a card on Chucky's body check. And Chucky actually went off injured at halftime, and I believe it was related to that body check. Owen can maybe correct me. And he just looked like a disaster waiting to happen, and he was yanked off on the 38th minute. There were some reports that it could have been injury. I assume as soon as it happened that John Herman just had the cojones to take him off and say, this is not working. We need to get him off before he causes a red card or concedes a goal, because he's also beat 2 or 3 occasions with speed. So it made me a little bit worried about our depth in that position, because we don't have a lot of it. If Vittoria, who is getting older at the age of 34, isn't available, I don't feel comfortable having Henry start a match. He's a hit or miss. He's been a hit or miss since he's played. He will have occasionally some strong defensive performances, but sometimes in matches at this magnitude, it could easily come and cost you, and it could have cost us early in that Mexico game. Thankfully, we got him off the pitch, got Vittoria on to settle things, but yeah, he had a shocker of a performance, and then a couple average-ish performances from Davies and Buchanan would be my 3.
All right. America's 3, Anthony Robinson, who has largely been quite good in World Cup qualifying, but didn't have his best game against Mexico. The quality of his, crossing was poor. Sometimes his overeager, in possession, a little reckless in possession, giving the ball away. It wasn't a terrible game from Anthony Robinson, but then he followed that up in Jamaica with just one of the worst games we've seen him play in a while. Almost, gave Bobby Reid a chance on goal 3 yards out with a bobbled clearance off his knee that was literally just set up, and Reid manages to put that over the bar, which on a better day, that's a goal. But not just that. Again, the quality of his crossing was poor. His combination was poor. The times he gave the ball away unnecessarily was poor. There was just a lot of reasons to not be happy with Anthony Robinson in this camp. I don't think it's, like we don't want to see him anymore, but it wasn't a great window for Anthony. The second one was Tyler Adams. And I say this because I don't think Tyler Adams was terrible or even bad. In fact, I think he was actually good in both games. But we have come to expect a certain standard from Tyler Adams, a certain level of play. And he let himself down in moments. It's all it was is like a few moments against Mexico where you're like, he has to be first to that ball, or that pass needs to be better, And then again against Jamaica, he is largely at fault for Antonio's goal. Not because, first of all, the way he read the ball, Antonio takes it down on his chest and he's facing backwards. And Adams wrongly believes Antonio is going to pass backwards, so he runs to close down that passing lane. And all Anthony does is Antonio does is turns around with the ball and starts dribbling towards goal. And so Tyler Adams now has to catch up. So he's sprinting at full speed. By the time he catches up, he's going so fast that it's easy for Antonio to just beat him, with a turn, and then he has his shot. So that was, I don't want to say completely on Tyler Adams, because I still think Zach Steffen could have done better. But at least partially, I would have expected better from Tyler. And it doesn't mean he had a bad window, but he wasn't playing at the standard that we've come to expect from him. And the third one was Ricardo Pepi. And I say this, I didn't want to bring this up because he's been getting a lot of unnecessary hate already. We're very reactionary as a fan base. He has two bad games, and we go, get him out. After his, the first couple of games where he played well, I said, this kid is still 18 years old. He's going to have variance of performance. That happens with 18-year-olds, and I don't want us to start bashing him when he has a bad game or two, because that's normal for an 18-year-old. They're still very, very young, and there's a lot of pressure on him in these games too. He was the only striker we had, and I feel like he wasn't terrible. He had bad moments in possession, moments where he gave the ball away poorly, moments where you feel like he didn't anticipate the pass or the cross early enough and so lost out on his duels. But he also had some great little one-touch layoffs, which is what he does so well. He comes back and lays off the ball. He did it for Tim Weah for the Jamaica goal, for example. But that being said, it wasn't the standard we've expected from Pepi in the games before that. And so those three are the guys that I think, played, I don't want to say played the worst, but had the biggest drop in performance from the previous window, if that makes sense. Owen, I'm sure you have plenty to.
Yeah, right. This was also a tough one.
7?
I think I've already touched on two of them before. I think compared to the expectations that I have for them, what they can deliver in a Mexico shirt, the talent they have, I think Hector Herrera and Tecatito Corona are two of the three. Like I said, already touched on those. So I'm going to go into the third one, which is Guillermo Ochoa. So before the Canada game, if you were looking at save percentage for the keepers in this octagonal who had played the most for their respective sides, Ochoa was 7th of 8 with a 69% save percentage. In a lot of those matches hasn't had a lot to do, it must be said. But then that was before the Canada match. And then he's at fault for both goals against Canada, for sure. Oh, really? Spilling the Alistair Johnson. I mean, there are things leading up to Alistair Johnson being able to take that shot. A bad exit pass from Nestor Araujo into the middle on that frozen turf field when you potentially could have played it down the line. Orbelín Pineda lets Alistair Johnson step in front of him to win the ball, pressing there near the midfield circle. But then when Johnson takes the shot, to not be able to parry it to the side or out of bounds for a corner kick, I think for a player of Ochoa's stature, for a goalkeeper of his quality, I think was a big mistake to spill it right to Larin. And then on the second goal, it's a great delivery from Eustaquia, and it's bad marking because Larin is unmarked, but he scores from inside the 6-yard box. Ochoa's a goalkeeper. Probably the main reason why Ochoa never ended up, for as good a shot stopper as he is, for the intangibles that he brings for the leadership, the main reason why Ochoa never played at a bigger European club than what he did was because he's not very good coming off his line. He's a player who's reticent to come off his line, not great claiming crosses. And you saw that on that second goal. So I think he's directly at fault for both those goals. A player who's going to still be the starter for sure in Qatar and potentially beyond for Mexico, but definitely culpable in the Canada loss. Yeah.
So guys, we kind of covered the last window, and I want to just briefly go around the table and talk about the window to come. But before we do that, Owen, you brought up something when we were discussing before we started shooting, that this is the last time we're going to have this kind of a CONCACAF qualifying, because there is CONCACAF qualifying for 2026. Very likely the three of us won't be in it. Canada, the US, and Mexico as hosts. So it will still be there, slightly different. It'll be good to see these other teams getting a chance, and then it's a 40-team World Cup from there on out. So how many is CONCACAF going to get? 7? Like 7 spots at least, maybe 6. At least 6, I would say, 6 to 7 spots. There isn't going to be the same level of stakes anymore for the US, Canada, and Mexico. You know what I mean? And so we should really enjoy these last 6 games, because it's the last time that we're going to have this kind of a format and this kind of a stakes where 4 teams are fighting for 3 spots, really, If we could just do it briefly, though, because we are running out of time. I know Josh has to get going soon. 1 minute, talk about the next window for your team. What's it going to look like? What do you need to do? Owen.
So Jamaica away, Costa Rica at home, Panama at home. I think it's going to be difficult. I think Mexico, I could see 5 points there.
And no Chucky Lozano for Jamaica.
Right,
away.
no Chucky Lozano for Jamaica. I think Jamaica have shown they've gotten draws against the United States and Canada at home. Maybe deserve more against the United States. Certainly, they're not going to be an easy out. They're desperate, as JD was mentioning. They need probably 5 wins from their last 6. I think that's going to be a tough match. I think if Mexico can get a point there, stop the bleeding a little bit, I think that would be a good result. And then the homophobic chant that's kept reappearing for Mexico, they haven't been able to solve it. That's going to really hurt them in this next window because the matches against Costa Rica and Panama are behind closed doors at the Azteca. They're going to have no fans, which, I mean, it should be said maybe cynically, given how Mexico have been playing, that might be a good thing. Not have the fans on your side. But Costa Rica, our side, they controlled Costa Rica and won away. I think that's the match I think they have to circle as a match you're going to win. And Panama too. I mean, you're playing at home, but Panama are unpredictable on the road. They've gotten some good results. They played Mexico really well back in September in Panama City. I think that's going to be a really difficult match for Mexico as well. So not the easiest window. And Mexico haven't helped themselves certainly with the stadium ban.
Yeah. JD.
Well, we have to just hope when it comes down to Jamaica. Well, we have Mexico, Panama, and Costa Rica. I think we can actually do something.
Hang on, sorry. Where are Panama and Costa Rica? A home or away?
No, we have Mexico at home, and we have to go to Panama. Remember, we lost 3-0 to Panama due to the fact that we started all of the English players them, at least the English beast players them in one game without a defensive central. I think we actually can get something out of both of these matches, and then we definitely, if we have Ethan Pinnock and those guys returning, I think we should be good enough to defeat this Costa Rica team finally. So I think this can be a window that might shock a lot of people, including myself. I think we can actually win 2 games out of this and draw 1.
I love your boundless optimism, JD. Every time you're here, you're saying, this is the window where we're really going to take it to the next level.
Yes. Well, we almost got 4 points. It just took 2 more minutes, and we would have had 4 more points, and it would have been all different scenes. Believe me, we would have been qualifying, sure. Yes, but yeah, that's what I think will happen over the next window. I think I would expect at least the least 4 points, but I think we can get 7 out of this. I don't think we're going to lose all of the games then. Like normally, I draw all of the games. I think we're Antonio have something special. Captain Jamaica, something special for all of these. Believe me.
We'll look for that. Josh.
Yeah, we got a tricky one. Probably one of the harder ones we have going up. There's a couple of different storylines, but we're going to Honduras, not an easy place to go. We're going to El Salvador, not an easy place to go. And we have the U.S. at home. So, I mean, I think a little bit will depend on the mindset of Honduras. Are they dead? Are they buried? Like, how much are they really going to show up? Or are they just going to come to reap the spoils? You can't take anything away from going to Central America. And then, obviously, the U.S. looking for revenge at home, or like coming to our home. It's still a tough match. I mean, the U.S. is not a guarantee to any way. I would like to think that the bare minimum would be 4. It'd be great to get a win just about anywhere, along with a draw. I'm kind of expecting 5 points. I feel like just because Canada has not lost yet, somehow we'll find a way, whether we win against the States, draw against the States, and then a draw and maybe pick up a win somewhere. I don't know, but I think the bare minimum goal, which I know it won't be John Herman's goal because, mentality, I think it should be 4. And I think I'd be okay with 4, but I'm expecting 5.
All right. Yeah, we have 2 home games, which are absolute must wins. That's Honduras and El Salvador at home. There's no excuse for anything less than 6 points. And in my opinion, we have to go and get at least a point out of Canada, at least, because last time we played Canada, we played Sebastian Lletget and Kellen Acosta as dual 8s. And no offense, they're just not the kind of guys that are going to threaten the back line the way that Weston McKennie or Yunus Musa or Gio Reyna are going to. And even though it will be in Canada, I still think we should go there and expect to get the win. And if we get the draw, it's certainly not ideal, but 7 points has to be the minimum for us in this window. And hopefully we will have a healthy Pulisic and a healthy Reina. By that point, Dest will be back. If we could, mentality is the biggest thing for us. We have to go believing in ourselves. We have to go confident, and we have to get 7 points out of this window if we want to stay in that top 2, where we are now. So guys, let's end this with our usual. Let's end this with talking about predicting where our team is going to finish in the Ocho. Josh, I'm really curious if you've been consistently saying third. Where do you stand now?
Nothing but first, baby. No, I'm kidding. I will go up though. I will say second. I feel like I still feel like Mexico, US, Canada will finish top 3. I just feel Mexico's gonna slip down to third now. I don't know. It's gonna be an interesting one, but I got confident. Whether it's Mexico or US, one of you guys are slipping below us. I'm gonna say second.
All right, Owen.
So I've been consistently saying first, and I'm gonna go one place down. So it can't be both of us eventually in second, Canada and Mexico, but I'm saying second.
Okay.
Because I think you look, Mexico have now gone through the toughest part of their calendar. They've got 4 of their last 6 games at home. One of those away games is the second to last match day against a Honduras side that at that point you'd think would be completely dead and buried. So a favorable schedule for Mexico. I think they'll be able to get the points required to jump up a place, more for that favorable calendar than probably for any improvements that will necessarily be made in how the team is looking and how they're playing.
Yeah. All right, JD.
I want to say fourth, because I think a storm coming, but I think we're going to challenge Panama for the 4th spot. But if we fell off to 5th, it's okay, But at least we want a valiant effort, Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Just put on some pressure on Panama because they
How
have
many
a lot
points behind Panama are you?
7.
Ooh. Okay.
Yeah, but Panama's all of the big teams them to play.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Panama
so
has a rough 6 games.
Yes, I think they're going to lose a lot of points. So if we win the 5 games, I think we're going to surpass Panama. I just have that feeling. But it is what it is. But 5th, 4th.
All right. This is going to sound weird, but I've always consistently said 2. I think we have the talent to be first, but I do think our coach takes us down a place just because he either doesn't use the talent or lacks other deficiencies. And I think that's going to continue to be the case. I think we're going to get second. We still have to go to Canada. We still have to go to Mexico. We still have to go to Costa Rica, which is not, they're a different team now, but going to Costa Rica's. So and again, it depends really on what Greg does, but just looking at his track record, I'm going to have to say second. So I don't know how Canada, the US, and Mexico are all going to take second place.
That's what I was wondering. Who will come first?
Magic.
Yeah, it's going to be a crazy last 6 games. Everything's going to be so tight. I do agree, though, that we 3 will be in the top 3. I think Panama will drop off. I don't think they can sustain what they've been, and I'll happily eat my words if they do. I heard this morning that it's going to be a 1-match playoff in a neutral zone with somebody. We don't know what confederation that 4th spot is going to be matched up with. If it's Oceania, you've got a shot because it's New Zealand. You've got a very good shot. If it's Asia, it could be Japan. It could be because Japan's not doing that as well this time. It could be somebody tough, Australia. If it's South America, that's going to be interesting. So nobody wants to get 4th. I mean, Jamaica probably does at this point.
Yeah, Jamaica will take it.
We'll take it. But of us 3, none of us can afford to get 4th. I don't think, even just from you would maybe go to the World Cup, but for the U.S. to finish 4th would be a disaster, in my opinion, a complete disaster. So, guys, thank you so much for coming to hang out to do this CONCACAF Council. We will be back in the late January to preview the next window. Everybody have a fantastic rest of your 2021. Thanks for hanging, guys. If you are not subscribed to Josh, he also does a lot of stuff for Dortmund. If you are not subscribed to JD, IMAX at Football, I'm going to put both of their channels in the description. And Owen, is the best place to find you on Twitter still? Is that the best spot?
Yes.
Go follow Owen on Twitter. El Tri fans. He does a lot of great stuff. Also works at the Mexican Soccer Show. I didn't hear you on the last episode, but maybe you still do. I don't know.
I'm there. No, I'm there. I'm there consistently.
Gotcha. So go follow them. Go, like their stuff, read their stuff. Thanks for coming on, guys. We'll talk to you soon.
All right.
See you, boys.